This is an NBC News special report. Here's Tom Yamas.
Hey, good afternoon. We are coming on the air with breaking news right now about a major development in a closely watched murder case. Just moments from now, police in Moscow, Idaho will hold a news conference where they are expected to announce an arrest in the murders of 4 Idaho college students. The roommates, all found stabbed to death in their home on November 13th. This is the suspect. You see him here. He's a 28-year-old man by the name of Brian Kohberger. He was taken into custody this morning in Pennsylvania. The case has drawn worldwide attention and shocked the small town of Moscow, Idaho, a farming community of about only 25,000 people. Any moment now, the chief of police in Moscow, Idaho, will be joined by university officials. As we wait for them to begin, let's go to NBC's Dana Griffin, who's inside the room right now where that news conference is set to take place. And Dana, set the scene for us. So many questions being asked here in a small town in America that was rocked by these murders.
Yeah, a lot of unanswered questions. We hope to get those answers in just about 2 minutes when this press conference is about to start. I can tell you who we're going to hear from. We will hear from the Moscow Police Chief, James Fry, also the Latah County Prosecutor, Bill Thompson, as well as Idaho State Police Colonel Kendrick Willis, and also the University of Idaho President Scott Green. We learned this morning that 28-year-old Brian Kohberger, that's how we're pronouncing his name until police confirm exactly how to pronounce it, was arrested this morning in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, at his home. Also, a white Hyundai Elantra was also towed away from that home. You may remember back on December 7th, police released information asking for anyone with information about a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra, and the pieces are starting to come together in this case. We are still learning a lot of information about this alleged suspect. NBC News has confirmed just recently that he is going to be charged with first-degree murder in this case for those 4 University of Idaho students who were murdered back on November 13th inside that 6-bedroom rental. Still a lot of questions remain. What's the motive? Is there a connection? We hope to get answers to those questions. We've also reached out to some of the victims' families. We've heard from one of them. And actually, we're going to send it back to you, Tom, because I'm getting a wrap here. So, Tom, back to you.
Okay, Dana, thank you. We think this news conference is about to start as both law enforcement, prosecutors, and university officials take the microphone. Let's listen in.
Thank you for coming today. Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Kohberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University. We will provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Kohberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court. I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation who provided information to help us investigate these murders has been very impressive. We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews. To recap this case, on the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at about 1:56 a.m. after visiting a local bar and street food vendor. Ethan and Zana were at the Sigma Chi house before arriving home around 1:45 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates had also been in the community but returned around 1 a.m. On the morning of November 13th, a 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. reporting an unconscious person at the residence. The call came from inside the home from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Moscow police responded and found 2 victims on the 2nd floor and 2 victims on the 3rd floor. On November 17th, autopsies were conducted, and the Latah County coroner confirmed the identity of the 4 victims. The cause and manner of death was homicide by stabbing. Some had defensive wounds, and each had been stabbed multiple times. These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process. This was a very complex and extensive case. We had developed a clear picture over time, and we stand assured that the work is not done, but be assured the work is not done. This has just started. Since November, we have remained laser focused on pursuing every lead in our pursuit of justice for the victims and their families. I recognize the frustration with the lack of information that's been released. However, providing any details in this criminal investigation might have tainted the upcoming criminal prosecution or alerted the suspect of our progress. We will continue to provide as much information as we can as the process moves forward. Today, I want to specifically thank our dedicated Moscow Police Department detectives, patrol officers, the Idaho State detectives, the Idaho State troopers, and their crime lab technicians and scientists, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the resources and personnel to conduct this massive investigation. It was the dedication of them and the persistence and the numerous hours that led to an arrest. Fortunately, these highly skilled people worked together as a cohesive team to solve this case. I also want to thank our community and the nation. Over the past 6 weeks, I've been continually reminded of how much our community cares. Locally, public support has been exceptional with kind words, food for investigators, and letters of support. You will never know how much your words of encouragement help us through these trying times. I appreciate each of you and each of your kindness. Agencies and individuals from across the nation have reached out to us to express their support to this department. I'm reminded how our Moscow community, our families, and the nation has been impacted by this daily. Finally, I do want to thank our media partners for the help. You kept this in the news. You helped us with tips. You kept things going, and we truly appreciate that. And you are the product of those 19,000 tips that we received, which is an impressive number. I would like to invite Bill Thompson, the county prosecutor, up at this time.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time. As Chief Fry indicated, a criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohlberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary, which involves entering the residence with the intent to commit the crime of murder. Mr. Kohlberger, and let me preface, there is a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court. According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohlberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can. As far as Mr. Kohlberger, I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over in Pullman. He has had an initial appearance in front of a judge in Pennsylvania. He is being held without bond, and the warrant from our magistrate judge here also provides for no bond. We understand that he's scheduled to be back in court in Pennsylvania next Tuesday afternoon, and that a public defender has been appointed for him there. The process at this point is, since he was arrested in another state, he has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here. So again, I'm asking for your patience and understand that's just the way the system works. Once he gets here, he'll have an initial appearance with our magistrate. They'll deal with issues such as making sure competent counsel is representing him, and the case will be scheduled for further hearings. Your primary source of factual information is going to be the court record, because that's what the Supreme Court says we need to refer you to. So please pay attention to what's going on in court and have people there to watch and hear what's being said. As an attorney, myself and my office, we are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom. So please just work with us. Finally, as the chief indicated, this is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. You all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward. Call the tip line. Report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why. Next, I'll introduce Colonel Ked Wells from the Idaho State Police. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Kedrick Wills. I serve as the director of the Idaho State Police and certainly want to express our appreciation for your attendance here today. These tragic murders took 4 young, vibrant lives from our community. Nothing we do can bring them back. The only thing that we can do in law enforcement to honor their memories that we know of is to bring this to a successful conclusion. This has been a very difficult time for the families, the university, the community, and the state of Idaho. However, it is also proven that communities come together in tough times. Certainly appreciate the support of the local community and our national audience that has been following us as our investigators have worked through this case. I'm thankful also to you, the media partners, who have helped keep this case in the forefront that generates the tips and we hope will continue to generate information that will help us to a conclusion of this proceeding. I'd like to express our appreciation on behalf of the Idaho State Police to Chief Fry, his leadership, and the entire Moscow Police Department for the way that they handled this from the very beginning. He directed the right people to the right positions that led us to this conclusion today. I've had the utmost confidence in this investigation and in Chief Fry, as well as in Mr. Bill Thompson and the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, who've been a great partner throughout this. Nothing has deterred the commitment of the investigators who've worked on this case, regardless of the organization they represent. It's been very trying and very difficult, as you know, that it has been on those investigators as they do the tedious work that they're so good at doing. The partnerships is what's led here as well. The partnerships between Moscow Police Department, I'd like to express our appreciation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically the special agent in charge out of the Salt Lake City Division, Dennis Rice, and also the work that happened in the last 24 hours in Pennsylvania with the arrest with the Pennsylvania State Police and Colonel Evanchik with the Pennsylvania State Police. We appreciate what they've done across the nation to help us as well. As Bill shared, this investigation is far from over. In fact, I appreciate what he shared, that this is not an ending, but rather a new beginning. The difference now is, as he shared, that we are dictated what information we can share by the court process and by laws in our state of Idaho. And so we will share, as he shared, Mr. Thompson is absolutely committed to share everything he can share through the court process. We've got to make sure that we don't get in front of that process. And we really appreciate, deeply appreciate everybody's support here. The relationships that were forged here and the partnerships that were forged have led to this, and based on that is why we're here today. And we continue to believe that the best way we can honor these 4 lives that have been taken is to make sure that we have a successful outcome here. One of the partnerships that's been forged throughout this is a partnership with the University of Idaho, and on that I'd like to introduce the president of the University of Idaho, Mr. Scott Green.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Scott Green, President of the University of Idaho. Today's news of arrest is a welcome one. It's relief to our university, our community, and our extended Vandal family. The outpouring of support over the past 6 weeks helped sustain us during the most trying time. It provided the strength that helped us navigate the international scrutiny visited on our students and employees. We are truly thankful for the compassion and acts of kindness shown to our community. Kindness is contagious, and it provided the light that reclaimed ground lost to evil and darkness. We first want to acknowledge and thank Governor Little for the early promise of financial support that enabled the university to secure our campus and focus on helping our students and our employees in the wake of the crimes. We also appreciate the Idaho State Police and the highly visible security presence that brought comfort and calm to a community shocked and confused by the senseless crimes. We never lost faith that this case would be solved and are grateful for the hard work of the Moscow Police Department and their law enforcement partners. Vast and committed FBI resources brought important expertise to this complex case. Across the board, dedicated, highly competent personnel worked this case to arrest. This crime has nevertheless left a mark on our university, our community, and our state. While we cannot bring back Maddie, Kaylee, Zaina, and Ethan, we can thoughtfully and purposefully carry their legacy forward in the work that we do. Our students come first, and that was proven each and every day of this investigation. We are committed to safely delivering the college town atmosphere, campus experience, and high-touch quality education for which the University of Idaho is known. With time, we will heal. We will move forward together, and we will remain Vandal strong. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Chief Fry.
So now we will open the floor to questions. However, I want to remind everyone, as Prosecutor Bill Thompson explained, any factual information regarding the arrest of Kohlberger is currently sealed per Idaho law and will not be released until he has appeared in an Idaho court. Please formulate your questions accordingly. I recognize there are a lot of questions, and I will try to answer as many of them as I can.
Is there an evergreen or Argonaut reporter?
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting, Spokane Public Radio. I realize the records are sealed. I guess I'm not too familiar with how it works, but can you tell us what tip, what lead, what piece of evidence really led you all the way from Idaho to the suspect in Pennsylvania?
As I've said in the past, that's part of our investigation, and we won't be releasing that this time. We will have those answers. We'll have them as soon as we can make those available to you.
Then a quick follow-up and a two-parter. Is our community safe, or is law enforcement still on the search for other suspects who might be involved in this attack?
What I can tell you is we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes, and I do believe our community is safe. But we still need to be vigilant, right? We still have talked about this in the past. We always need to be aware of our surroundings and make sure that we're aware of what's going on.
Hi,
Hi, Chief. How soon into the investigation did police and law enforcement begin to spot Mr. Kohberger as a potential suspect? And a follow-up, how many tips, if you can say, were specifically related to Mr. Kohberger?
To the tip part, honestly, I can't answer that question, so I'm not even going to speculate on that. On the other part, that's part of our investigation, and it will come out. I'd like the mic to please come right over here.
Thank you. Dana Griffin with NBC News. Can you confirm that Kohberger asked whether or not anyone else had been arrested when he was in custody?
I cannot confirm that, or I'm not sure of that information, but that would still be a part of our investigation.
Did CODIS initially return any hits on this guy?
That's still part of our investigation. That will come out. If we could get somebody over here, please.
And then one final question. Is there any message to the online sleuths who slandered and harassed people who they believed were responsible?
There was a lot of speculation going on, and we've always said from the very beginning that we're the official message that comes out, and to pay attention to what we're putting out there to the press.
I'm Nancy Liu with News Nation, and we were over at the House this morning, and you told us that the remediation would begin today. It was suddenly stopped. Can you tell us why?
Yes. The House cleanup has been halted, and that came by a legal request from the court.
Christina Corbin, Fox News. Chief, have you identified a motive?
That is part of the investigation, and that will come out as we continue the investigation. But what we still ask is for people to continually send us things in the tip line. We are still looking for more information. We're still trying to build that picture, just like we have stated all along. We're putting all the pieces together, and that will help.
Chief, Veronica Miracle with CNN. Any indication that the suspect knew the victims?
That's part of the investigation as well. It won't be something that will come out at this point in time, but as we continue the investigation and as this case goes to trial, that will be brought forth.
Have you spoken to the families? Can you tell us what they've told you today?
Are you talking the victims' families?
The victims' families.
Yeah, we have reached out to the victims' family as we always do. We've done that daily, and we've continued to have contact with them.
Hey, Nate Sanford, you mentioned earlier that you're still seeking tips about Brian and that people should still share whatever information they have. Can you speak at all about what specifically people should be reaching out for, like if they know something?
I would say anything and everything. As we've said all along, we know what tips we're looking for. We will take those tips and we will have professionals look at those and decide which pieces of those we need to use for our case. So we ask that everybody would do that.
Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. Your department and other investigators on the case took a lot of flack for keeping information close to your chest. Are you glad that you did that, and were you worried about tipping the suspect off?
I will 100% stand behind the way that we handled this investigation. And this all started from day one with our patrol officers arriving on scene, locking down the scene, us calling in the Idaho State Police, us calling in the FBI, and keeping information that was pertinent to this case very, very tight. We want to have a situation where when this goes to trial, there is no doubt that we've done everything right and we've slowed down and we've continued to slow down. We'll continue to do that.
Hey, Chief. Have you guys found the murder weapon or the Hyundai Elantra?
So we are still looking for all pieces of evidence, but we are still looking for the weapon. And I will say that we have found an Elantra.
Stephanie Becker with CNN. Can you tell what it was like when you got the phone call when the police told you that they had your suspect?
I can tell you, for a lot of law enforcement, it was a fairly sleepless couple of days as we were leading up to everything that we were doing. But what I can tell you is I have faith in those agencies across the nation. I have faith in our officers. I have faith in the FBI, and they did a great job. But sure, there was some times, even throughout the day, that we were always concerned.
Hi, Chief. Danya back at CBS News. Can you talk a little bit more about the suspect's connection to Pennsylvania?
All I know is that he lives in Pennsylvania.
Chief Guy Tannenbaum from Nonstop Local KHQ in Spokane. More about the Elantra. We saw reports that you mentioned that you recovered an Elantra, but can you specify where that was found? And we know that that was one of the biggest pieces of information you were asking from the public to tip. Were you able to provide an information on whether those tips led to this seizure of an Elantra?
That's still part of the investigation that will come out in the future.
Chief Glenn Mosley, Idaho Public Radio here in Moscow. The additional police presence in town and on campus, semester's coming. Is that going to continue?
You will continue to see state troopers in the area. You know, we're talking to Latah County as well. You will see a presence of us that we're always have up on campus. We have assigned officers to that. So you will continue to see a law enforcement presence. I'm going to take two more questions.
Hi, Chief. Julie Scott, ABC News. Can you tell us if you eventually had a license plate number to the Elantra and how you tracked it to Pullman?
That's still part of the investigation that will come out.
Chief, hi, Matt Lovelace with the Murrow College of Communication. I want to ask about Mr. Kohberger as a graduate student at WSU. Are you aware of if he returned to campus after November 13th? And have you had any communication with departments on the WSU campus about his attendance?
So some of that is going to be followed up as we continue our investigation. We'll be asking some of those questions, but that'll come out in the near future. So what I do want to do is I want to thank you all. You really have been the national voice for us. You've given us the opportunity to get many, many tips. And I do appreciate everything you've done, and we'll continue to look forward to working with you in the future on this. So I'd like to thank you for that, and thank you for your time.
If you're just tuning in, we've been listening to a news conference from Moscow, Idaho, where they've announced breaking news. They have arrested a suspect in the case of those murders at the University of Idaho. Police say this man, you see him right here, Brian Christopher Kohberger, has been arrested in northeastern Pennsylvania. He is 28 years old. He's charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, along with felony burglary. According to police, he was a graduate student just over the border of Moscow, Idaho, in the state of Washington at Washington State University. We've been following the news conference since it started. Dana Griffin is inside that room where the news conference occurred. Dana, because of the state law in Idaho, police could not tell us a lot about the evidence up until that suspect is extradited back to Idaho. He's still in Pennsylvania right now. But according to sources who have spoken to NBC News, we know one of the key pieces of evidence here, which police were asking about, was that white Hyundai Elantra. And we know, according to our sources, that a Hyundai Elantra was pulled from Kohberger's house earlier today.
That's right, Tom. And even police have confirmed that that white Hyundai Elantra has been found. Back on December 7th, that was that key public piece of information, the real big clue that has been released since November that confirmed that was, you know, the key piece of evidence that they were looking for. And they have found that. They found that this morning when they arrested 28-year-old Kohberger. He is still in Pennsylvania. They are waiting for extradition. They said that could take a while, but he has had his first court appearance, and now they're just trying to work through the system to try to get him here. Again, they're not releasing a lot of information because they want to hold on to the integrity of this case. They are saying that if we want to get any information, we're going to have to show up to the court hearings because they're not going to be releasing much else. They have said that these murders have shaken this community, and although it won't bring those 4 murdered university students back, they say that they are looking forward to the fact that they could hopefully get some sort of justice here. We know that the suspect is from Pullman, Pennsylvania. He also is a doctoral candidate at Washington State University, where he is listed on their website, or was until possibly hours ago when that website page may have been removed. He's going to be back in court on Tuesday, January 3rd. And so we're just waiting to see what else is going to happen. Also, police confirmed, you guys may know this, they were scheduled to clean the house where the crime scene occurred. But we found out also during this press conference that that cleaning was halted because of some sort of legal process. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, what plays out next over the next several weeks as we try to learn more about the suspect. They are still asking for more information, people who may have known him or know information about him, because they're still trying to connect the dots here. So hopefully we'll learn more information pretty soon.
Yeah, Dana, they are asking the public for any information, any and all information about that man we just saw there, the suspect in this case. Though they couldn't share a lot of information, they did say a couple things that were interesting. One, they are still looking for the murder weapon, and they had been monitoring him over the past few days, and they were at times concerned just about the arrest. But of course, the FBI, along with the help of Pennsylvania authorities, were able to take him down and, of course, take that Hyundai Elantra, according to our sources, to confiscate that. I want to bring in Danny Savalos, who's our NBC legal analyst. Danny, I know they couldn't tell us a lot. They want to follow the letter of the law here. They don't want to mess up anything in this investigation. What stood out to me, right, and you've worked with investigators before, there was a nation of pressure on these small-town police officers. And you heard the police chief say just moments ago, he 100% stands by their investigation because it got him to this moment. It took 7 weeks, but they think they have their man.
Notice there was something really telling there. Notice that the police were willing to talk about the absence of the murder weapon, the missing knife. But when asked a question about KodsterPro, and that's the combined DNA system index that is a database for DNA that could be left at a crime scene or somehow else finds its way into the system. When that question came up, notice they said, well, we're not going to talk about that right now. Now, it could be nothing. Maybe they didn't get a hit on KodsterPro. But if they did, that could, in theory, mean that this was DNA that was already in the system from another crime scene. It could be all kinds of things. But the fact that they're not willing to discuss KodsterPro could mean that we may learn that there was a hit for this person in the KodsterPro system. The other interesting thing now is the complexity of extradition. I'm a Pennsylvania lawyer. I'm here in Monroe County right now as we speak, not too far from where this all went down. And procedurally speaking, if he decides to oppose extradition, it could take a long time. Many defendants will waive extradition and just head back to their requesting state, in this case that's Idaho, to face charges and fight their case. But a defendant who doesn't want to waive can prolong this process. So that is yet another reason why authorities are not likely willing to discuss facts of the case, because this could get strung out even longer by the defendant.
All of that, and it's wrapped around the New Year's Eve holiday, and the next time we're going to see him in court apparently is going to be Tuesday. I do want to bring in Gotti Schwartz now, who has been in contact over the last 7 weeks with family members, because at the heart of this, Gotti, we can never forget this is about 4 college kids who were brutally murdered for apparently no reason, at least no reason we know of. 4 families who have been put through hell and who have demanded answers, and today, possibly they've gotten some comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. And the family of Kaylee Gonzalez told us that one of their biggest fears was that whoever did this was going to show up at one of their memorials and relish in the chaos that they had caused. And so hopefully now the family is able to see the news here and find some comfort in knowing that someone at this point is behind bars. But Tom, just talking about some of the locations here, we understand that Brian Kohlberger lived in Pullman, Washington. We understand that there was a search warrant that was instituted at his home, at his apartment that was on the campus at that nearby university, which is just a few minutes away from Moscow, Idaho. He was found thousands of miles away near Mount Pocono in Pennsylvania. Now, police continue to be extremely tight-lipped about what led them to make that arrest, as we saw in that press conference. But we know that there were about 100 pieces of evidence taken from the scene. We know 20,000 tips came in. We know that police were looking for that Hyundai Elantra seems to have been found. But as you heard in that press conference, Dana Griffin asking about CODIS, asking about DNA, that is the big question that remains. Was DNA used, possibly collected in that 100 pieces of evidence and then used to make the connection? And was that CODIS, or was that possibly some other DNA database? Also, we've been digging into Kohberger's background. It appears as though he was a PhD criminology student at Washington State University who had been involved in research into how the criminal mind works. Tom?
Okay, Gotti Schwartz for us. We thank Gotti, Dana, and Danny for that. That concludes this NBC News special report. We promise to have much more on the arrest tonight, plus new reporting when I see you on Nightly News. I'm Tom Llamas. Thank you so much for watching.